Well, my name is Brad Anderson, and I am the State Director for AARP Iowa. And I want to welcome you to the first stop of an 18-stop tour intended to protect Iowans in this new digital age that we're living in. So by now, you've all heard of artificial intelligence. You all know that it can do fun things like, make my speech into a Dr. Seuss rhyme. But it can also be very harmful. And many of these scams that we're seeing now at AARP are based on artificial intelligence. And they can impersonate a grandchild, for example. They can steal phone numbers and impersonate a phone number. And so the purpose of this series and this tour is to help educate Iowans to make sure that they can identify a scam, therefore preventing it from happening in the first place. So that is the purpose of the tour. We've got a great video I'm going to show to you here in just a second. But I do want to take the time to really thank Attorney General Byrd and Commissioner Oman with the Insurance Division for joining us. Attorney General Byrd, we've been working with her now for quite a bit, and the General and her office have been tremendous when it comes to helping us fight these scammers and really embark on some of these consumer protection measures that we want to see enacted. And so we really do think the Attorney General's office does a terrific job. And the nice thing is when you call them, a live human being answers the phone. So yeah, give it up for live human beings answering the phone. So the final point I want to make before turning it over to the video is AARP and the Fraud Watch program. So we have cards in the back. And if you fancy yourself a good presenter or someone who likes to present in front of groups, small or large, consider being a Fraud Watch volunteer, because we could always use more of those. But additionally, if you want a Fraud Watch presentation, kind of like what you're going to see today, whether it's through a Rotary Club or through a church or through your own living room, we have presenters all over the state of Iowa who can give those types of Fraud Watch presentations. We do over 100 a year. So take the card. It's got all the information you need to either become a volunteer or request a Fraud Watch presentation. So now I'd like to turn it over to this video and then the commissioner.
On December 4th of 2023, I was a victim of a grandparent scam of $9,000.
October 6, 2023, I was a victim of the gift card scam. I was sleep deprived, and I had 700 emails that I was going through, and I was trying to get stuff done, and it seemed reasonable.
There was no doubt I was going out that door with $9,000. Nothing clear in my mind except my son was in trouble, and I had to do what I had to do to get him out of trouble. I look at myself as a common sense person, but what I went through was not common sense. They played on my emotions. I wasn't looking at the red flags. I wasn't looking at things that I normally would do.
What happened initially was panic, and then disbelief that I'd been suckered, and then humiliation. It was $200, which I would much rather have taken my family out to dinner a couple of times, but it wasn't financially devastating. Fortunately, it's a survivable mistake.
$9,000 would have been devastating to me at that time because of that Christmas time, and I was going through some financial hardships. These people did it right. They knew where to hit me hard, playing on, a grandparent, a parent.
I'm Commissioner Doug Omen. I'm pleased to be with you. Brad serves sort of as the MC. I'm the opening act, but I know you're here to see the Attorney General. So I'll do my best as an opening act, General. I do serve as the Insurance Commissioner, and as part of that responsibility, we are very much involved in financial literacy and investor protection. This is due to the fact that quite a number of years ago, our legislature here in Iowa set up an investor education fund. This fund was set up really to allow the state to have resources available to do financial literacy across the market. What I mean by that is we provide services that find their way into our middle schools, our high schools, in order to provide financial literacy for young people. But we're also very much involved in providing education to the people that I would describe as older Iowans, middle-aged Iowans, some of you folks who are in this room, really because of the fact that the scammers are often targeting people as they've gone into retirement. And the reason for that is numerous, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the main purpose of me being here today is really to help prepare you, help warn you, help you think about the scammers, because of the fact that the scammers know that if they can find you and they can persuade you, they're likely to be able to try to steal from you. You know, you've all heard about what we used to be described as the con game. You know, we know what a con man is, the con game. Well, obviously what the con game is a confidence game. The scammers know that if they can get your confidence, and again, whether it's in the digital means or it's through the telephone or even the door knocker, that confidence game is to get you to trust them so they can then steal your money. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. You know, the work that I do in investor education really has to do with not romance scams and not some of the charity scams and not some of the things that the Attorney General will talk about, but it often starts with investments. And so I just want to make sure that you recognize that investment scammers they're looking for dollars as well. And you know, it's really important that you do what you can if you're potentially an investor to make those wise decisions. There are a lot of organizations out there that will help give you advice as to how to do that. Certainly a professional investment advisor could help you make good decisions about that. But the scammers, they'll often reach you in a variety of ways, just as other scammers do, whether it's digital through your cell phone, whether it's by the telephone, or even by door knocking. So it's important to know that scammers come from all sorts of directions when they're after your money. For those of you that do investments, and I hope many of you have investment strategies, it's really important, again, to talk with someone who's properly licensed or registered in our state. Investments are very highly regulated, and someone who is licensed is more likely, although not for sure, more likely to be somebody that you can trust. Because again, in the confidence game, it's the scammer who's trying to get you to trust them as well. But we call it double check before you invest, because if you go online, you can find all sorts of opportunities. But if you go online to iid.iowa.gov, that would be our website, you can actually check whether or not the investment opportunity is properly registered and licensed with our state, because if it's not, it's likely a felony. So if you want to do business with a felon, then do business with someone who's not properly licensed, because if they're not licensed, it probably is a felony. These are the types of frauds that we see. You know, the affinity fraud, that's often where they try to gain, you know, your confidence because they behave like you behave. So you can kind of think of it this way when it comes to social media. If you put a lot of private information on social media about yourself and your family, the scam artists, as they go through and they harvest that information, they look at it with artificial intelligence. Frankly, that's going to get even easier. But then they can call you, and then they can be like you. They share your interests, they share your family situation, they may even share your high school. But they do that because of what they're trying to do with affinity fraud is to make it sound like they are like you, because that's what affinity fraud is. It's similar to the imposter scam that Brad talks about. The free dinner seminar, and again, I hope you all enjoyed your lunch. Did you enjoy your lunch? So this is a free dinner seminar. So there are some that are good and some that are not good. You also need to know, and I know the Attorney General will appreciate this, your lunch today was bought by scammers. These dinners are funded. We have a variety of sources that the legislature in the Investor Protection Fund gave to us, one of which is financial professionals are also interested in you being highly educated, so some of their licensing fee pays for it, but I assure you today's lunch was paid for through a civil penalty paid by a scammer. So I hope you enjoyed that. It did not involve any taxpayer dollars. We also see gold and precious metal scams still. Again, these are investor scams. You'll get a lot of pressure with gold. We continue to see kind of a rocky market, in terms of the securities investments and even some bond funds with the change in interest rates. It sometimes feels like it fluctuates, and folks they don't like that, so they're encouraged to buy precious metals, gold as an example. Those can be appropriate investments for you, but you want to steer clear of the investment opportunities in precious metals that may involve a 90% markup. That is, you're buying 10 cents of gold, but it's going to cost you $1. And there's a lot of that out there. We recently settled a case involving a gold precious metal outfit that was doing just that. So you want to make sure, again, when you're making those decisions, you're watchful of precious metals are sort of a place for scams. High yield investment products, these are, again, the promises that are made. These often come through internet sales. They come through the old traditional telemarketing sales. But again, those are promises. I still see oil and gas scams. There's oil and gas scams that literally are scams involving non-producing wells that are sold and misrepresented as producing wells. But we also see with oil and gas a lot of risk associated with what are called Reg D offerings or exempt offerings that are exempt from registration. I would encourage you, again, I don't want to overgeneralize, but for the people in this room, where you are in your retirement planning or experiencing years, oil and gas is a high-risk investment. And I warn you about making sure that if you make that decision, that you really seek out the advice of someone who's very knowledgeable about that market because it is high risk. We often see Ponzi schemes. And again, for those of you that don't know Charles Ponzi, he's long gone. Maybe Bernie Madoff is a name you do recognize. The original Ponzi scheme probably wasn't started by Charles Ponzi, but his was big enough and sophisticated enough and caused enough loss that we actually named the scheme after him. But Bernie Madoff did the same thing, and that's just the general principle of offering investment returns in the form of interest, but the the interest is simply being paid by new investors. We do see promissory note scams and self-directed IRA scams. These are literally oftentimes, again, in that area of exempt investments, and it's just very important to seek out an investment professional to assist you with that. I'm going to just briefly talk about Medicare scams. And I know you're here today to hear about some of the technology, digital scams, but Medicare is another area where in our office we have a responsibility to make sure that you're on the lookout. In many of our events, we describe the individuals in the room as fraud fighters because you're part of our defense when it comes to Medicare fraud. And what I mean by that is you're the person that's likely to get the solicitation for the brace or for the type of device that really isn't going to serve your needs, but that the scammers can use in order to bill the United States government for those devices. So just be aware of that. It's, again, something that you should watch carefully. You should keep your Medicare information secret. If someone calls you looking for that kind of information, don't give it to them. It's something that, again, you need to know who you're dealing with when you are using your Medicare cards. I do want to just talk briefly about exploitation. In the Department of Insurance and Financial Services, in our Securities Bureau, we have, based upon a decision made by our legislature, the ability to receive complaints now from investment advisors and brokers. This is really an important part of the work that we do, because oftentimes financial professionals are in a position to spot romance scams, charity scams, credit, the types of scams that grandparents often get involved in. But you can also serve a great role in taking care of one another. And so this information, you can sometimes tell when someone is behaving, if they're being exploited. There are certain signs just with regards to physical abuse, but there are also signs when it comes to financial abuse and exploitation. Oftentimes when people are going through being victimized in a financial fraud, they're embarrassed to talk about it. In fact, there's something about being an Iowan where we're reluctant to say, I got scammed. I mean, the fact that those individuals agreed to do those videos is really helpful, because so often embarrassment doesn't allow us to report what's happened. But it takes a toll. And so I've put up here some of the signs of what we see in people when they start to become a victim. So I want to close with reporting, because of the fact that when you report a scam, you're not just reporting out the fact that you have been victimized, you're actually part of the effort to stop it. I think one of the reasons AARP is so interested in this Fraud Watch program is because we can educate individuals, but we can also educate communities. And there are going to be times when you may not be the target of a fraud or a scam, but one of your friends may be the target of a fraud. So what I would encourage you to do, and especially as we hear more from General Byrd about some of the scams that they investigate, I want you to keep that in mind, that if you report out a scam, you're, again, not just helping yourself, you're putting us as law enforcement as investigative agencies in a position to help protect one another. So if you report it, the earlier you report it, the easier it is to gather the evidence that we need in order to refer matters to the Attorney General or to federal law enforcement, so that the wrongdoers can be brought to justice. So again, I want to thank you very much for being in attendance today. It's now my pleasure to introduce you, as I mentioned, the main event, the Attorney General. So I would like you to please welcome Attorney General Brenna Byrd.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, thanks, Commissioner Oman. I appreciate that. Those were some good tips, some good information. So I'm Brenna Byrd, your Attorney General, born and raised on a farm near Dexter, west of here, so I'm not too far from home. And my husband and I and our 7-year-old live on the family farm in the house my grandpa built out in rural Dexter. So I gotta say, I love that. So if you see a dirty car, that's gonna be mine, because all spring it's gonna be very, very dirty until it gets dusty, and then it'll just be dusty. But I love the chance to serve as your Attorney General, and I'm really glad to see so many people in this room who care about being informed about scams, because this is how we stop it in rooms just like this. And nothing makes me madder and sadder than seeing someone who has been ripped off, and it can be hard and sometimes even impossible to get that money back. Now, please know, we will get the money back if we possibly can, But sometimes, because of the methods the scammers use, that's not a possibility. So we're faced with that tough conversation of letting somebody know the facts. But Commissioner Ullman is exactly right. When you're reporting a scam, you're helping other people. If it happened to happen to you, you're helping other people know about the scam, and it helps us catch and stop them in their tracks. So there's a couple things I wanted to touch on today, and before I do that, I want to thank Brad Anderson and the AARP for putting this together, and the insurance commissioner for your whole team, everybody here for putting this on, because it is so important, and it's a statewide effort. You are here for the kickoff lunch, so you're here at the very beginning, but we're going absolutely everywhere to spread the word and to make sure all of Iowa knows what they need to do to arm themselves with information. Now, who here knows of someone who has been scammed or has been scammed themselves? Yeah, that's a lot, isn't it? That's a lot. So it's no surprise when we hear just how prevalent scams are throughout the state. And please know this too, if anyone is scammed, even if they think they can't get the money back, and they might be right, if they can call our office, talk to somebody like Al, who's here with me today, we can help too, because we have found that once somebody gets scammed once, the scammers keep them on a list, and they'll try off a new, completely different scam on them to see if that person has any more money. Or they might need to do something to know the options for how to lock your credit report, so they can't take out credit cards or other types of things like that in your name. So please call our office, and Al or somebody will walk you through the steps there and try to help you. You know, it's never been more important for us to be vigilant and on the lookout. And I am worried about artificial intelligence, and I'm worried about scammers who imitate family members in order to get to our emotions, because we all want to do everything we can to help a family member, right? If that phone rings and it's somebody we know, the first thing we think is, how can we help, not is this person who they say they are? So those things really worry me a lot. But the scammers are just evil and manipulative. You know, I'll call it what it is. Because when you think about it, we were raised, when the phone rings, you answer it, you talk to the person. I don't think I ever saw my parents as a kid hang up on anybody, you know. And you just think about that, the scammers are using that against us. So the number one rule is don't answer the phone if it's a call that you don't know where it's coming from, right? Yeah, so they use that against us, and they use all of our best instincts against us. So often the scams that we hear from people gave the money because they thought they were helping somebody. They thought they were helping somebody who needed their help, and they were in a position to do something good. But that all was based on a lie, an absolute lie. You know, there are a couple myths out there about scams, and I want to talk about one of them right now. I have a lot of Iowans that say, oh, you know, that happens to the most elderly out there among us, right? Well, that is definitely not the case. So we just, earlier this month, and I'm not going to use the person's name or their hometown, but we had, 28 years old, Al, from Northwest Iowa. You know, smart young man with a family, and he got a call that the post office and law enforcement had found a package that had drugs and money in it. Drugs and money in a package, and it had his name and address on it. And he was going to be in big trouble. And so he was very worried about this. And before you think it sounds silly, know this. They knew his address, right? His family member names, the names of his kids, and he was worried he was going to get picked up and not hear from his family again. So to make a long story short, they got him to go and withdraw, was it $14,000 out of his bank account that he had for his family, okay? So if you could imagine, that's probably the savings they had as a family for things that might come along, and put that into what they call a crypto ATM. It's one of these machines that people can feed cash into, turns it into cryptocurrency. As soon as it turns into cryptocurrency, the scammer can have it because it goes right into their crypto wallet. So he puts that money in. He's there waiting for confirmation to know how it's all going to turn out, right? And 5 minutes later, what does he get but a text message from the bad guy saying, "Sorry, I scammed you." Oh, isn't that just terrible? Absolutely terrible. 28 years old. You know, a person that could be any one of our friends or family or neighbors. So this can hit anybody. You know, they preyed on all of his instincts that he had as a dad to protect his family and the fear that he had of not being there for them. Pretty evil, isn't it? Absolutely evil. It's hard when we see these things, but it's important that we share these stories, because let me tell you this. Never, ever, ever put cash into a cryptocurrency machine. I don't see any reason why that would be a good idea. Most of the time, those things absolutely turn out to be scams. And if there is something legitimate, don't you think they could come up with a legitimate way to have you pay for it? Absolutely. So these crypto machines are going to be the next wave of what you see coming out in the scam world. And there's all kinds of different scams that people use. We know about the lottery scams, you know, the fake Amazon delivery. The IRS scams are big right now with people getting ready for tax season. If you or anybody you know has anything like this coming to you, don't hesitate to call our office. We're glad to talk it through with you if you want to bounce that off another person just to see, is this real or is it not real? Because they are getting very sophisticated in terms of the methods they use and how they look to be real. We had another case that Al worked on, and it was a senior citizen in eastern Iowa, a nice lady, and she had called our office because, well, let me put it this way. First, she got a phone call. I'm going to describe what happened to her so you can see just how it goes. First, she got a phone call, and she didn't recognize the number. So what did she do? She didn't answer it. Good. You know, you think, okay, done. You know, scammer averted, not going to happen to you. And they'd left a message saying something about there's an Amazon purchase for a certain amount. You just want to verify that it's you. You know, did you buy this, $100 thing off of Amazon? And she's like, oh, that didn't sound very good. So she just went on to the next thing. And next thing you know, she's getting, what was it, a text message or something like that. And it said, the same type of thing. And she thought, oh boy, because nobody wants to get charged for something we didn't order, and we know that somebody could steal our credit card, right? So what'd she do? Well, unfortunately, she called them back at that number, okay? So that was the first mistake, but kind of an easy one to make, right? I can't be hard on her at all. I think a lot of us, me included, could do that. Calls them back, and she's talking to the lady, and just realized the lady that answers the phone sounds very professional, just like what you'd expect. Calls in. The lady says, oh, yes, I'll take that charge off your account right now, okay? Hasn't asked for any personal information or anything. And she says, oh, while I have you here, I just had a $1,000 charge come through for a new laptop. Did you order that? And the lady's like, oh, no, I sure didn't, No, I didn't. That's not mine. And so they start to build a relationship of trust with this person. Now realize at this point, this innocent lady in eastern Iowa hasn't been asked for any personal identification information, any bank accounts, social security numbers, anything. So she thinks this person is helping her. Well, the scammers, they really did a number because they eventually told her that she needed to talk to the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Agency, because they said they have information that her accounts are being used by drug dealers for illegal drugs. And of course, when she knows it would be the DEA, she thinks she wants to help because you want to work with law enforcement. I think we all do. We all respect and appreciate our law enforcement. So she gets to talking to a completely different person this scammer handed her off to, the so-called fake DEA agent that sounds very real, working with them, talking to them, and then finally they asked her for money, right? But they did it in a way where she thought she was protecting herself. So he said, this fake evil, not DEA agent, but the guy who said he says, your accounts are in trouble, they're in jeopardy, you need to take all of your cash and mail it to this address so we can keep it safe for you. Now, you'd think we wouldn't do that, but I don't know with everything this lady'd been through. Yeah, I just have to say, they really manipulated her and really built up that trust where she thought she was talking to the real DEA. So what did she do? She took her $20,000 roughly out of her savings account and put it in a box and went to the kind of store where you mail boxes like that, like a UPS store, and she put it in the mail overnight. And then as she got back home, she had one of those moments, because they put a lot of urgency on her that she had to do it right that second, where she like, what did I do? We've all had a feeling like that sometimes, haven't we? Well, she did something real smart because she called our office. And Al, who's here with me today, is the one that ended up working with her to help her. So he got all that information, and I got to tell you, this story, I'm very proud of Al's work. This story actually has a happy ending, because Al was able to figure out that that package hadn't gotten overnight to the place that it was supposed to be delivered to, and he was able to get it intercepted, and she was able to get her money back. So thank you, Al, for your work on that. But I just talk about that because I think that kind of thing, when we get to the part where we realize somebody got ripped off, I tend to think, oh, I'd never do that. But it's all the steps leading up to that. It's everything leading up to that. So it could happen to your friends. It could happen to people that you know. We just have to be vigilant and be watching for it very, very carefully. Well, scams are up big, and I think you know this, but last year, $10 billion in scams across the U.S., and that's just the ones we know about, 10 billion with a B. They are not slowing down, not one bit. And in fact, if anything, we've seen them on the rise. They're always going to want you to send money in certain forms, because at the end of the day, that's what they're after, isn't it? It's your money, it's your credit. So they want money in the form of gift cards, cryptocurrency, where you put cash into one of those machines, and they might not even call it crypto, but it's a machine that you put cash into that can be found at certain gas stations. They'll want you to mail cash, do wire transfers, anything that gets the money to them where they think they won't have to give it back. And while we know that many of these people are operating from overseas and are hard to get to, there are also some more local scammers, some that will show up to your house. So if you ever hear of one of those, call law enforcement immediately. Because what do we think one of those people would do if someone is waiting with the money, right? And they change their mind and decide not to give it to the scammer? That makes me pretty worried. I hope it does you too. So be sure to call law enforcement and report it. And I like to think too, not just about the red flags, but about the positive side of how to prevent scams, right? So being from a small town, I have to tell you this, go local, right? Meet with people in person. Don't rely on people saying who they are or saying this is their real phone number. Those are always some big red flags for a scam. And please know this, here in the AG's office, we are working hard to stop the scammers, but we're also working hard to help anybody that's been scammed, to do everything we can for them. And when you call, it's just like what Brad said, you'll get a real person, just like Al, who's been there before and understands how these things work. So if something happens, call law enforcement, call our office, and please know we will do everything we can to help you to get to the bottom of it. And I'd like to hand it off to the guy I've been talking about here who's with me today, Al Perales. He's an investigator in our office. And I'll tell you what, the scammers are sure worried when they hear Al's on the case. He is a wonderful person. We're so thankful to have him here in our office because he's absolutely passionate and cares about stopping the scammers and helping Iowans get their money back. So come on up, Al, and give us some good tips.
Thank you, and so much, just such great information from Attorney General Byrd there. And I'm telling you, I am so honored and grateful and feel to be a privilege to be working with Attorney General Byrd, her staff. I'm telling you, I work with great people who are focused and dedicated. on making Iowa safer and protecting Iowans, especially older Iowans, from scams. But I thought I'd start out with something funny, because it's always good to laugh, isn't it? Unfortunately, there was this plane that was about ready to crash. There were 4 passengers, but only 3 parachutes. The first passenger was a heart surgeon, and he said, "My patients need me." So he grabbed the first parachute and jumped off. The second passenger was a rocket scientist, and he said, "I'm one of the smartest men in the world." And so he grabbed the second parachute and jumped off. The third passenger was Pope John Paul, and he told the fourth passenger, a 10-year-old Boy Scout, he said, "Son, I'm old and frail. I don't have much time left. You go ahead and take that last parachute." And the 10-year-old Boy Scout responded, "Sir, that's okay. The smartest man in the world just took off with my backpack." And one of the reasons that I love to tell that joke, and believe me, I tell it a lot, is because one of the themes that you'll hear today, and you've heard it before with those that have talked before me, is to double check. To double check, to stop, to slow down before you sign on the dotted line, or before you answer that phone that you don't recognize, or before you say yes or give vital information over the phone, or click on a link that says urgent, that your account is breached, that you double check. Today, I hope that you learn something. That is what our hope is. We want to give you the power over scams. That's what our hope is. That's why we're doing this. And again, I hope you learn something, but I hope you share it with someone. Share it with a loved one, a friend, a family member. Because we want to slam the scam, right? We want to give you the tools and the information that you need to be able to detect these scams and maybe help someone or protect yourself. It's amazing to me how small the world is, right? Technology, with technology growing, the world has become smaller. And it's amazing to me that there are people that wake up every day to lie, cheat, and steal. And they're focused on people just like you. They know that over 80% of financial wealth and over 50% of discretionary income is owned by folks just like you. And believe me, their number one goal is to get in contact with you, to gain your trust, and to steal your money. For many, scams are pain in the neck. They're a nuisance. But I'm telling you, for many more, scams are devastating. They ruin lives. They break families. They ruin financial and emotions. It's sad. If you had the opportunity to sit in my chair for 1 week, you would hear stories that would just break your heart. A gentleman who lost about $111,000 not too long ago to a romance scam. A gentleman just right here in Des Moines that was involved in a scam, and as AG General Byrd said, he went to a cryptocurrency machine, and he put not 14,000 like she said, 200,000 into one of those machines. And the sad thing is that he was a victim. But these scammers get a hold of your emotions, your heart, your mind, and they make you believe something that's not true. I always say scammers they're good illusionists. They're good at making you think something is true and real, but it's not. Their foundation is nothing but lies and deception. But he believed it. To the point where even the police came to him, law enforcement, warned him, "Sir, you have to stop. You have to stop." But he decided to believe the scammers instead. And unfortunately, a sad result, he ended up getting arrested. It's sad. It paints a picture of how strong these scams are. And they're focused on you. They're focused on Iowans. You're Iowa nice. They're focused on the isolated. But another reason that comes to mind why they focus on you, as mentioned before, many Iowans don't say anything. And some things come to mind. Number one, a lot of times, they don't even know they've been scammed. I can't tell you, I have a handful of investigations that I've done where I call folks and ask them if if they know that they've been charged for a product or someone has grabbed money from their account. And I can't tell you how many times they say, no, they haven't. I don't. So scammers focus on older Iowans because they believe they can scam them and not even notice. Number two, we find out that many older Iowans don't say anything because they don't know who to call. They don't know who to talk to. But more often than not, we see that many older Iowans don't say anything because they're embarrassed. They don't want to say anything. They don't want their son or daughter telling them, Dad, Mom, I'm going to have to be on that account with you, or we're going to have to take your phone away. No one wants that. So they don't say anything. But it's very important to know that anyone can be a victim of fraud. I've had folks that I've talked to that said, Al, let them try it. Let them try a scam on me. And I believe you need to be careful saying that. Because I'm telling you, as we've learned, these scams are getting better. With the world of AI, just think, sometimes I can look at a text or something from a scammer, and they might not have a command of the English language, and you can, oh, that's a scam, I think that's a scam. And with AI, guess what? They'll be able to create text and letters and stuff that look amazing and look real and sound legit. And with the voices, I can't tell you how many folks that I've spoke with that have been involved in the grandparent scam, and I've been told, Al, that was my grandson. That was my granddaughter. It was them. I know it was. So be careful. Be alert, aware, and attentive. Why do scams work? Scammers understand human nature. When you think about it, how many here would love to pay for something or buy something that they didn't agree to or want? Nobody, right? Scammers know that. How many in here want to be in trouble with law enforcement and have the fear of getting arrested? How many? Nobody. And how many of us would love to win the lotto? I'm the first one to raise my hand. I would. I can't tell you. Right now in my car, I have my visor. There's some lottery tickets there. And while I'm driving down the road, do I think of those lottery tickets? And do I start to dream and start to think, oh my gosh, what I would do? And it brings a smile to my face and my heart? Yes. Scammers know that. So what a scammer wants to do, essentially, is they know how we tick. They know what kind of will make us go that extra move. So they create a scam. And the number one goal of a scam artist is to raise your emotions. To raise your emotions of fear, of excitement, or pulling at your heartstrings. That's what they want to do. Because they know when they can raise your emotions, if you're excited, guess what? You're more apt to run toward it, right? And if you're fearful, what do you want to do? You want to get away from it. You want to do whatever it takes to get away from it as fast as you can. And the scammer knows that. To give you just a couple examples of some scams, or just how strong these scams are. We had a gal in Bettendorf, Iowa, who was a grandparent scam. And she was contacted, and she said it was Al, it sounded like my grandson. She said, Grandma, I need your help. I was in an accident, and Tony was with me, and we're down here in Florida, and he was driving, and he ended up hitting a pregnant lady. And they found a little marijuana in the car. It wasn't mine, Grandma. And the way they were handling Tony, they ended up kind of being mean to him. And so I swung at the officer, and he hit me in the nose. So I might not sound the same. Don't tell Mom. Don't tell Dad. And she was instructed. And this is again how strong the scams are. She was instructed to get $10,000 out, and she was supposed to put the $10,000 in a magazine, and then get a box and cover it with happy birthday paper, and then put another box and write the address and put happy birthday on it and send it off to New York. Luckily, she made a mistake, on the address. And the U.S. Postal Service got it. They sent it to they must have had x-rays or something, I don't know, and noticed what was in it, and sent it to the New York State Police. The New York State Police contacted me, and we contacted her, and we got her money back. But again, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen a lot. But these scams are strong. They are so strong. I had a gentleman that I just talked just the other day, and he was in fear because he was going to get arrested. Again, they use fear. And I talked to him, and I thought I had connected with him and tried to comfort him that, sir, everything's going to be okay. It's a scam. And do you know that he called me at 7:30 that night, and I happened to be there to answer him? He's like, oh, Al, I just want to make sure. They're calling me again. And again, these scams, as General A.G. Byrd said, they're evil. I'm sure we can all agree that life from when we were growing up to now, there's more evil in this world, right? I was just thinking today on the way here, one of my favorite movies, Back to the Future. When he went back in time, it was 1955, 30 years. Do you know that we're 40 years now from 1985? It's just amazing how time flies. But things were good back then, and it just seems like things are, unfortunately, more evil. And believe me, in my opinion, it's going to get worse with AI and everything. So that's why we want you to be on guard. Some of the scams that we're seeing, if we go back one, the Amazon scam. A.G. Byrd just talked about it, where she got that notice that there was something wrong with her Amazon, or she had made a purchase, and it's a perfect scam. So scams in the past, there were silos. Okay, you had the romance scam, you had the IRS scam, the lotto scam, and you name it. So when you got a call, the scammer stuck with that scam. But now, it's like a smorgasbord. It's a buffet. So what happens with the Amazon scam is they call you that there's something wrong, or did you purchase this, or you did purchase this. And it's such a great scam because your guard is down. No one thinks, if you're looking at your phone and you get a call right now, what do? We're looking, do I know this person? Is it somebody I know? You're on guard. Should I answer it? With this scam, you're calling Amazon. And you think it's Amazon. It sounds like Amazon. They want to help you. One thing that I want you to know with the scammer, with these, so they'll start with that scam, and as A.G. General Byrd told in that story, they turn it into a law enforcement scam. So what happened in the scam, the scammer started with a voice of concern, a voice of helping, a voice of trying to assist. And they turned it upside down to a law enforcement scam. You're in trouble. To a voice of fear, pushing, condemning, frightening. And that's what they did to her. And also the other story with the 28-year-old, they put fear in her. And the Amazon scam, and it's a good scam. Unfortunately, we're seeing it more and more. The romance scam is alive and well. And I have the pig butchering scam, because as I told you, you had the romance scam, the pig butchering scam. Does anyone know what that one is? Okay, so everybody knows what the romance scam, right, is? We have a gal from Moines who lost $1 million to a romance scam. $1 million. I just talked to a gal yesterday, or this week, in one of my investigations. She lost $111,000 to a romance scam. And I had just caught her and talked to her. And I asked her, hey, are you in this? And she didn't know. She thought she was in a real relationship. But she had put $111,000 into a Bitcoin machine. But the pig butchering scam, like I said, scammers now will take a little bit of this and they'll take a little bit of this. So the pig butchering scam is kind of like the romance scam. But it's not really a romance scam. You get contacted, if it's a guy, you get contacted by a young lady. If you're a lady, you get contacted by maybe a military, a younger, nice-looking guy. And they're just friends. They just want to connect with you. And they say, hey, I've made this money on this investment. And I've done very well. And so they take you through these steps for you to invest. And And then they have apps and they have websites that show that you're making money. So your $10,000 investment has turned into $100,000. You see it. It's on your app. You see the money going up. And then it's time they say, hey, maybe you need to get some of that money out. Well, first you need to pay taxes and fees. So that for that $100,000, you're going to have to pay $30,000. And then that's when they get you. And the pig butchering is like, unfortunately, like feeding the hog to slaughter them. And that's where the name came for the pig butchering scam. But the pig butchering scam is a little bit of a romance scam and an investment scam. The virus text scam. Oh my gosh, this one here is alive and well today too. Just another quick story, and I love telling stories. We had a couple, and to paint a picture here, we had a couple. They were about ready to retire. They were going to go to Paris. She was 2 days before she was going to Paris. She was on her laptop, and she got a message: "Danger, danger! You need a call. There's a virus." She called again. They were very helpful. Her guard was down. She clicked on the link, and allowed her into their computer. They were able to see she was going to Paris in a couple days, and then they swept it over. And she had been a teacher for many, many years, and they told her that her account was tied to child pornography. And they told her that if she didn't cooperate with them, she was going to get arrested. And they saw that she was going to Paris in a couple days. Her passport was shut down until she worked with them. And she ended up getting $12,000 and feed it into a Bitcoin ATM machine. And one of the things she said, and I'll never forget it, she said, "Al, I can't believe that I fell so easily for evil." And that's what these scams are. The Google search scam. The Google search scam is where you Google, I need Apple support, or I need a car for car enterprise. And then the listings come up. So you get Apple support, 1-888-555-1212, or Google support. Scammers will pay, so their result comes up 1, 2, 3, or 4. So when you call it, you think you're talking Google or Apple. It sounds like Apple, it feels like Apple. You hear the recording, you hear the music, but it's not Apple. So with that one, always make sure you go to the actual website. Go to apple.com, go to google.com, go to hp.com. Go to the actual websites to get the phone numbers for customer service. We had a gentleman who went and he was going to take a trip, and he contacted Enterprise. He got the number, and they said, "Hey sir, sorry, our computer's down. We only take gift cards." And he went out and bought $500 gift cards, and the day he went to go get his car, guess what? No car. And he found out he was scammed. Crypto Bitcoin, I put that one on there because I can't tell you how many stories that I've heard in the past 6 months that end in, I put money into a Bitcoin machine. So if you ever get contacted and someone is telling you to put money into a Bitcoin machine, it's a red flag. Stay away from it. Tips, 10 tips, real quick. Okay, I'm doing good. Okay, number 1, if you don't recognize the call number, don't answer the call. And it's okay not to be Iowa nice. Hang up on them. I'm not interested. Send it in writing. Don't answer any call you don't recognize. Number 2, never share financial or personal information. If someone's calling you, if you get a call and they say they're Medicare, asking for your information, updating, no, Medicare would never call you. I can't tell you how many folks have said, "Oh, Al, you won't believe this, but I gave my information. What do I do?" So be careful. Number 3, never pay with gift cards. And I put that on there because the scammer is always going to ask you for money in ways that you have no protection. So they're going to ask you for cash. They're going to ask you for a check. They're going to ask you for a gift card or to wire money, or the new one, Bitcoin, because you have no protections. We tell folks, if you're going to buy something, always use a credit card, because with credit cards you have safeguards and protections. Number 4, resist the urge to act quickly and secretly. The scammer's MO is to get in, to pressure you, and get out as fast as they can. And they're going to tell you to keep it a secret. I'm going to sideswipe a little bit, and I want to give you the acronym TIP. TIP. If you remember TIP, believe me, every scam has this. The scammer wants to introduce a threat. The T is threat into your life. You've won the lottery. You've been approved for a grant. You're going to be under arrest if you don't follow through. A threat. If they what do they want to do? We talked about it. They want to raise your emotions of fear, excitement, or pulling at your heartstrings. Because they know when they have you up here, you'll act. Number 2, immediacy, which is tied to this one. There will always be a sense of urgency in the scam, that you have to do something now. If you don't do something now, there's consequences. P is payment. The scammer will always ask you for money. There will always be money involved. And as we said, it will always be in ways that you have no defenses. TIP, T-I-P. Number 5, don't rely on caller ID. And I put that one on there because just not long ago, we had a deal in Jasper County, in Newton, where folks were getting a call from the Sheriff's Department. It said Jasper County Sheriff's Department. And they got calls that they were supposed to be at jury duty. And they had failed to show. And because they failed to show, there was a warrant out for their arrest. So they needed to pay now, or they were going to come and arrest them. Okay? And we talked to many Iowans that day, and they gave me the number. And do you know that the number was one off the real Jasper County Sheriff's Department? And I called it. And it said, hey, thank you for calling the Jasper County Sheriff's Department. If this is an emergency, hang up the phone and dial 911. If you'd like to talk to the sheriff, press 1. If you want to talk to the jail, press 2. If you fail to show it up at jury duty and need to pay, press 3. And I pressed 3. And I was only on the phone for like 30 or 40 seconds after I said a few choice words to the guy. But while I was talking to him, I heard people in the background putting the fear of God in people, saying, hey, we're going to arrest you. That's what they do. So don't rely on the caller ID. I have to say that. Always double check. Number 9, never pay for a prize. If you get a call that you've won a prize and you have to pay taxes or fees, never pay for a prize. I always say, if you have to pay, it's not a prize. Number 7, always deal locally and deal face to face. And Attorney General Burge kind of mentioned that too. And I put this on here because many people are buying stuff online, on Craigslist, and we want you to go and look at it. We want you to kick the tires. We want you to test drive it. I think two months ago, we were doing an investigation where someone bought a Camaro, sight unseen, out of Nebraska, and guess what? There was no car. And he lost $30,000 just like that. So always go take the time to kick the tires and deal locally, deal face to face. Number 8, take the time to review your financial statements each month, your bank account, your credit cards. Take the time to look at them every month. And if there's something out of whack or something that's not supposed to be there, report it right away. Number 9, double check, double check, double check. We can't say it enough. That before you move on, if you get something from out of the blue and it's starting to raise your emotions, and you remember that, make sure you double check, make sure you slow down, you stop. And remember TIP, remember TIP. If the scammer will introduce a threat, they're going to want immediacy, a sense of urgency, and they're always going to ask for payment. They're always going to ask for money. And one of the reasons that we do this, and I love and feel it a great privilege to be here today, is that we want to let you know that you have friends at the Iowa Attorney General's office. And if you have a problem, if you have an issue, you can call our office at any time. You have friends at the Iowa Attorney General's office, you have friends at the AARP, and you have friends at the Iowa Insurance Division. And I'm proud to be part of this 18-city tour, to be going across Iowa and hopefully saving someone from falling prey to a scam. And again, if you have a problem, call our office, and you can call me, you can call Al, because he's your pal. Thank you very much.